Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and WWDC 2026 is just one day away, and at 10 a.m. Pacific Time or 1 p.m. Eastern Time, Apple will begin sharing their keynote with the world and show us everything new with iOS, iPadOS, and all the other operating systems. Apple last year decided to jump from iOS 18 to iOS 26 for the year, and so we expect the same this year with iOS 27. Now the first thing is, right after the keynote, Apple will typically push out the first developer beta of iOS 27. This will be for developers only, and the public beta usually doesn't release until the end of June or early July as iOS becomes more stable and they start to make everything work a little bit better. So I wanted to walk you through things you can do to prepare to update if you want to try out iOS 27. Now, the first thing is, if you're not a developer, you would need to sign up as a developer if you want to try it out when it's early, and you can do that at developer.apple.com. It's free to sign up, but if you want all of the benefits, you would need to pay about $100 per year. However, if you'd rather wait for the public beta, you can do that at beta.apple.com. Again, this is completely free. You can sign up, and when it's available, you'll see it here, again, at the end of June or early July. Once you've signed up for everything, the first thing you want to do is make a backup. In order to do that, there's a couple different ways. If you have a lot of iCloud storage, you can do it there. That's the easiest way. Do that by going into Settings, tapping on your name at the top. Tap on iCloud, then you'll see here, iCloud Backup about halfway down. Go into this and tap Backup Now. Make sure that you're fully backed up. Be aware whether or not you have cellular data available. If you don't want to back up over cellular, you can turn this off and back up over Wi-Fi. So if you use this method, this is the easiest method to back up all your information. However, if you don't want to use this, you can use Windows using iTunes and back it up there, or use a Finder on Mac and back it up to your Mac. But either way, make sure you have a backup before you try this out. Also realize that the first betas are usually very bug-filled and still very much under development. Even if stability is the focus this year, it's a work in progress and could take a few betas to become more stable, and also there could be app compatibility issues. Sometimes banking apps, for example, won't work properly until those apps are updated for iOS 27 later this year. So just keep that in mind. If there are critical things, I would definitely not try this out on your main device. So if you're worried about bugs, stability, crashes, or battery life, do not update to iOS 27 on your main device, especially with the first betas. Later on, as it becomes more stable with the public betas, it's probably safe to do so. But I would recommend, if you want to try it out, try it on an older device or a secondary device like an older iPhone or an iPad. Now also keep in mind that if you want to downgrade, maybe you try out iOS 27 Beta 1, you find that it's too buggy, and you want to downgrade, you'll need a computer to do that unless Apple changes something this year. It would be great to have a way to revert back just on device, but typically you'll need a computer where you need to plug in, completely wipe the device, and then restore everything. So just keep that in mind as well. Now, while you're using the beta, remember to report feedback. The point of a beta is to try it out on hundreds of thousands or millions of devices and find issues that could not be found on just a few thousand devices within Apple themselves. Because there's millions of combinations of everything from apps to home screen layouts and more, sometimes people just experience things Apple couldn't replicate. So those are important to report to Apple, and you do that in the Feedback app. You can provide it here and then just tap on this little icon in the bottom right and provide that feedback. You'll see all of the feedback I have here and information I've provided over the years to Apple, talking to them. Sometimes they ask for more information. Sometimes they just say your issue is resolved and it goes away. And if you are providing feedback, select what you're providing it on, iOS for example, and then it can capture information from your device and send that back to Apple, letting them know exactly what happened to replicate the issue. Now, as for the event, of course, we expect quite a few changes, but not as many as previous years. According to Mark Gurman, Apple's pitch Monday is a cleaned up, better performing operating system with new AI that is more compelling, plus a completely overhauled Siri that is app and a chatbot, both combined into the iOS update, and the user experience will get vastly better. What he means by that is improvements with liquid glass, maybe even a slider to control liquid glass. So just like we can customize the clock here on the lock screen with liquid glass, we may be able to do that throughout the whole OS. I know many people would prefer that, especially if they're just trying to get some more contrast or they don't like the look of glass altogether. Also, we expect some home screens customization to be updated, maybe with an undo or redo button, and we expect better battery life. All of these things should be coming with iOS 27. Of course, we'll have to wait and see if that actually turns out to be true. We expect some updates with Apple Intelligence, of course. Siri 2.0 is expected to finally show us Siri with context. We expect a Siri chat app, image playground enhancements with better quality, possibly a wallpaper generator, as well as a grammar checker within writing tools, and also Photos will get some updates to cleaning different items up or just editing images altogether with new options to change perspective or expand the image outside the frame. We've heard more about visual intelligence having its own dedicated Siri button or Siri option within the camera, where if we go into the camera, you would have that here. And then also you could be able to activate it by pressing and holding the camera control option. So just like we have visual intelligence now, it would be built into the camera app, which makes more sense. You'll also be able to do things such as scan nutrition labels and have them entered into health. And I'm sure we'll see a few things we weren't expecting. Apple already showed off all the accessibility updates coming to iOS 27. So on Apple's newsroom website, I went over these one by one, but again, these are coming to iOS 27, and we know this 100%. So things such as enhancements to magnifier, voice control, and more. Now, as far as overall support, let's go over that, and hopefully these are not true, but we'll have to wait and see. Apple is rumored to drop support for the iPhone 11 series with the iOS 27 update. So what that means is iPhone 11, 11 Pro, and 11 Pro Max, as well as the iPhone SE second generation, are supposedly losing support for iOS 27. Again, we don't know this until it's officially confirmed by Apple, but that's what the latest rumors say. Also, iPadOS 27 will drop support for a few iPads supposedly, with it dropping support for the 8th generation iPad, iPad Air 3, and iPad Mini 5. macOS 27 will be the end of the line for Intel Macs, it seems, with MacBook Pro 16-inch 2019 losing support, MacBook Pro 13-inch 2020 with 4 Thunderbolt 3 ports losing support, the 2020 iMac, and the 2019 Mac Pro all losing support for iOS 27 supposedly. Again, this could change. Maybe there's last-minute changes, but either way, we'll have to wait for sure once Apple announces it. When it comes to watchOS 27, so we haven't heard a whole lot. We do expect a few refinements and changes along with Apple Intelligence, but maybe they'll drop support for the Apple Watch SE older devices or Apple Watch Series 6 and 7. We don't know for sure. And again, we'll have to wait and see what Apple actually supports this time around. The same is true with other devices. I wouldn't really expect any devices to drop support with tvOS, but we really don't know. But we could see some updates with HomeOS, visionOS, and more. So all of those things are expected, and whether or not we get hardware at WWDC 2026 is unknown. Apple TV has been ready for a while along with HomePod Mini 2, so maybe we'll get updated versions once we have Siri 2.0 released. So that could release later this fall once it's available to everyone. But at this point, that's what we're expecting with iOS 27. So that's everything we know so far with iOS 27, the supported devices, and some tips if you're planning to install it on your device. Let me know if you're planning to install iOS 27 Beta 1 and on what device you're going to try it out on if you're going to try it out on day one, and what features you're looking most forward to. Of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do, and if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.